morning to you,
Welcome to Issue in the News, and today we unfold a 309-page book titled Habiba, My Habiba. It's a piece of literature which unveils the psychological trauma people go through when they fall in love, especially at the wake of incurable diseases. The author is a US-based certified behavior analyst and a PhD holder in psychology. Fai Robert says he is passionate about relieving people from trauma and helping others from going through situations that they could easily avoid. He begins by presenting the book.
Habiba, My Habiba, first and foremost means my love, my love. It's a book titled on the story of Fedi Roka, who happened to have, experienced some tragedy in life, but at the same time also love. It's based on the HIV, the experiences that, lots of us had in the 90s, growing up with the challenge of the pandemic, AIDS and HIV.
What actually inspired you to come out with this piece of art?
I was growing up in the 90s. I was a college student. And then we had this pandemic, HIV. It was so scary to everyone. And I thought about why people were having HIV. There were so many reasons, of course. But I decided I was going to write a literary book, a novel that depicts the challenges that were being experienced in life by everyone in our communities.
You've dedicated this book to anyone who comes across it or anyone who reads it, unlike other writers who would dedicate their works to their loved ones. Why?
Well, I felt that if someone were going to take the time to go through the book, then that person loved me, and definitely I should dedicate that book to them. It's a challenge. The story talks about things that we experience every day. Everyone experiences love. Everyone experiences tragedy. And I think that it was going to resonate with lots of people, particularly those who really want to read it. So I dedicated the book to them.
So has the book been launched already?
Well, I launched the book in the United States. That is where I'm resident. And I'm hoping that someday in the future, very near future, I should do so in Cameroon as well.
Now, what is the principal message of the book, Habiba, My Habiba?
There are so many things that we can be able to gather from Habiba, My Habiba. Number one, it is love. Number two, it is tragedy that sometimes come with love. Then number three is the psychological trauma that we sometimes go through because we love. So the book is very real. It's like it talks about everyday activities, things that happen to us. Sometimes our decisions that we make and the consequences and how we suffer through those consequences.
You say it's talking about love. What kind of love?
Well, it just depicts a story of how we fall in love, right? I mean, everyone falls in love, and you see somebody, you fall in love with them, and sometimes you think you fall in love when you actually haven't fallen in love. You could be just lost. So sometimes these things happen, and then we get confused. For example, as a man, sometimes you ask, or maybe as a woman, when you fall in love with two people, which one really is the real love? Am I really in love? Is there something else? So this is exactly the story of Fedi Roka. He fell in love with Evina, his home girl, promised her marriage, and then went out to look for fortune, find money to come back and marry her effectively, but then fell in love with another woman altogether. And now he's confused. He doesn't really know whether he's going to come back to Evina, whether he has HIV or not. So these are the challenges that we face sometimes. And I felt that depicting this in the kind of a story that can be captivating, something that you can be able to, deep dive into the whole thing and then be able to find out, ask yourself two questions, self-reflection, about decisions we make about love.
You wrote this piece of literature at the time where HIV just broke out, or when the disease was new to Africa.
Yeah, my own very same village where I lived, I thought we were kind of like secluded and that you could not find HIV in our village. But unfortunately, the people who were dying of HIV. And then as I traveled as a student, there were students who died of HIV.
And there was no antiretroviral drug?
There were no drugs. People were not even willing to talk about it. Everyone was scared about it. It was a silent killer. People were just quiet about it. And so I thought about it. I said, well, if people don't know about this, it's not like people were committing a crime. They just wanted to love, and then these things were happening. What could we do? So the inspiration was to be able to bring about some kind of, awareness for young people, because I know that young people want to read love stories. When they read it, they should be able to come out with something to understand that decisions they make actually have consequences, and then they should be able to make the appropriate decisions and take care of themselves. So that's the reason why I wrote it, and I think that was my inspiration.
You are a psychologist and you are a writer. How do you shuttle between the two?
Well, writing for me is a hobby. It's something I love to do. I write in between things that I do. I could be in the bus. Since I'm also a behavior analyst, I do a lot of observation. I look at people's behaviors, and then I can be able to say, hey, I can exaggerate what I say, so that we're able to make an effect. So if you tell me a story, it's very likely that I might develop a character out of that. So I love doing that. It's a way of escaping. When I was young, I kind of read a lot of novels, a lot of books. It was a way of escaping from reality. And so even though as a psychologist, you come in contact every day with real people who actually are experiencing challenges. And sometimes
real challenges too.
Yes, I just want to escape away from that. So I get into writing. I write that. It helps me some kind of, therapeutic in a sense as well. So writing for me is some kind of therapy, as a matter of fact.
As a psychologist, I suppose you should be able to help someone living with HIV/AIDS.
Right, absolutely. The first thing about living with, say, a pandemic, it could be COVID, it could be anything, is that there's nothing unique that you are going through. Everyone is going through the same thing, and sometimes it's good to talk about it. When you talk about it, you kind of relieve that, that stress that you're going through. Because someone can be able to tell you a story that resonates with what you are going through. And that kind of helps you, reduce the stress you go through. Then sometimes too, you already have it. Because usually we just talk about people who already have maybe a difficult situation, a mental health situation or something. We forget about those who might likely get into it. So as a psychologist too, I also want to be able to make sure that we can prevent people going through situations they could be easily avoid. But at the end of the day, always remember that you should always talk to someone. It's always very important. Don't just wait to find a psychologist somewhere, because psychologists are not really available that way, But if you talk to family, talk to friends, those who can show compassion, those who can be able to at least understand where you are coming from, they might be able to think out of the box and give you ideas that might help relieve you from the stress you might be going through in life.
So where can we find the copies of Habiba, My Habiba?
Well, Habiba, My Habiba, unfortunately, is not yet in Cameroon in hard copies, but you can get it in Amazon, you can get it through Barnes & Nobles, you can get it through online publicists. All you need to do is just go onto Google and you Google Habiba, My Habiba by Robert Fai.
What was the spelling?
Habiba is Habiba, Habiba.
Okay.
My Habiba by Robert Fai. You might also see another copy that says Bob Daniela, which is also my pen name, but I'll advise you to get the latest copy, which is by Robert Fai. My website is www.robertfi.com.
Do you have any word for Cameroonian writers and psychologists?
Yes, for Cameroonian writers and for writers particularly first, I want to be able to let you know writing is not a very difficult thing to do if you put your mind to it. The most challenging thing about writing is being able to have an audience, people who are willing to read. And it's very important to collaborate. Don't feel like you can do it on your own. I didn't get this done by myself. There were so many people who actually stepped in. You, for example, interviewing me, you're part of the whole process. It's a whole project. So it's a project that, so many people can be able to help you. Those who are young writers, you want to reach out, I'm available. You can go on Facebook. You'll be able to get me. Just type there Robert Fai. You'll be able to get me. You can reach out. I can be able to assist as well. And then for psychologists, we have lots of challenges going on in our society. It's important that we can be able to step up, try to find ways we can be able to support either through our writings, either through research, or maybe through our practice. If you have a place where you're practicing, always reach out so people can be able to reach out to you to seek for assistance as necessary.
Thank you very much, Robert Fai, psychologist and writer, for talking to CRTV.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity.
That was Irene Mbang Tata in Issue in the News. And our guest was Mr. Fai Robert. He's a United States of America-based author. He also is a certified behavior analyst and a holder of the PhD in psychology. He was here to present to us his new book, Habiba, My Habiba. It's a book on psychological trauma. All I can say is read it. Coming up, we'll bring you the latest local market trends. Every Wednesday, we inform you about the availability of our local foodstuff and their corresponding